Welcome back to the Wizard Shop. Let's get started. This is a big truck. It's a 2008 Chevy half-ton 4x4, and it's Crazy D's, the guy in the office that does all the phone calls and everything. His truck broke down on him. Let me go grab him and we can talk about what happened here. So you were just enjoying your weekend, and what happened with this thing?
I put gas in it, and then I got in the truck to leave the gas station, and it wouldn't start.
Aha! I told you guys. It always happens right after a fill-up. There's a science behind this. I guarantee you there's something to explain. Fresh gas, cold out of a ground tank, going into the gas tank. Boom, your fuel pump locks up. Isn't that strange how that happens?
Yeah.
It's always that way. We have customers calling, they're like, hey, I just filled up with gas and now my pump is went out on me. Mm-hmm. Happens quite a lot.
Yeah.
So next time you're getting gas, cross your fingers, you might be next. But anyways, so we pretty much deduced it wouldn't start. You didn't know exactly why. Got it pulled over here, and we found out that the fuel pump is bad. We're going to show you what's all involved to get that replaced, and we're going to do a quick inspection on it. But otherwise, it's been a pretty good truck for you, hasn't it?
It's been a very good truck for me. I've put a lot of miles on this. It's made a lot of trips back and forth to Topeka and everywhere else, and auctions, and it's been all over the country. It's been all the way out to California and back, and Arizona and Wisconsin, and all with a, so it's been a great truck. It might be getting to time to think of a new truck, but I'm not quite. I'll be very sad to see this truck go.
It's been a good truck. You guys have seen in previous videos when I recommend truck to buy or not to buy. These era of trucks, and especially the earlier ones, are definitely to buys. They are really good trucks. Go check out Crazy D's equipment. He actually has a lot outside the shop here where he sells farm equipment, used farm equipment like plows and discs and all kinds of different things, and actually has his own channel. Go check it out. There's a link in the description. I'll let you get back to answering the phones, which is so crazy some days.
Yeah, some days.
So before we dive into what's all wrong with this thing, let's take a quick look around this truck. So here's the front of this half-ton 4x4. It served him very well. Like he's mentioned, it's been all over the country to auctions and things, getting equipment for his lot. It's had some wear on it since he's had it. It's got some scratches and little dings and things here and there, but it's been very reliable up until he filled up with gas. Along the bottom, which we'll see when we lift it up, it's got some little bit of wear and rust and things going on the body. We'll do an inspection and check it out here in a little bit. But the rest of the truck is in really pretty good shape. It's not caved in or dented or rusted real bad, but there definitely is some rust going on. And you can see on the ground we have a tank shield off. We'll show you what was involved getting the fuel pump out. One thing while we're by the front wheel here is Crazy D has mentioned that he's been hearing the brake squeal pretty loud under braking. It's like a real shrill. It's very loud. Let me take a look and see what we got here. Yeah, it looks like his pads are getting thin. Yeah, there's a deep groove in the rotor. Probably time for some new brakes too. Now we found the front brakes are getting pretty thin. It's time to get those replaced before they get dangerous. Luckily, today's video is sponsored by AutoZone, and they're not only providing me with new Duralast Gold brake pads, but new rotors as well. I find that by the time many people realize their brakes are making noises or making their car shake, they're only needing brakes, but rotors as well. Crazy D's brakes aren't that bad, but you should never wait until your brakes fall apart like we've seen in some of those memes on the internet. Replacing both pads and rotors at the same time ensures the best performance and the lowest noise. These Duralast brakes and rotors are designed to fit this truck perfectly and restores brakes back to the performance of original equipment. If you're wanting a higher tier brake, try Duralast Gold like these. They're designed to meet or exceed the brake your car came with, or try Duralast Elite, their highest level. They last 3 times longer than Duralast brakes. The great thing is I was able to find these at AutoZone.com in stock at my local store and had them here in minutes. I'll get these installed just as soon as we finish filming today so Crazy D can have his truck back and have it running and stopping like it should. Now, back to that fuel pump. Thank God Crazy D only filled it up halfway. He only got a half a tank and still caused it to fail. But it seems like it's always when you get a half or a full tank, that fresh fuel, it just kills the fuel pump. I don't know why. If they're weak, they're kind of on their last leg, It seems like a full tank of cold, fresh gas is the final nail in the coffin. It usually kills your fuel pump. So if you're ever thinking about, okay, I've got this Ford truck, Chevy truck, Dodge truck, or whatever, what does that mean if I have to replace my fuel pump? What's all involved with that? As you can see, the entire gas tank has to come out of the bottom of the truck and be put onto a table just like this. This is the fuel pump here, and it sits in this hole down in the fuel. You can see the gas that's all in there, half a tank. The actual fuel pump is inside of here. Where my finger's touching is the actual fuel pump. You really can't just buy that. And even if you could, if you're going through all this trouble, why would you just put the pump only? And then 6 months later, your fuel cylinder goes bad and it quits telling your fuel gauge how much fuel, and now you have to take it back apart a second time. Just put a whole module and be done with it. It's unfortunate that it happened to him like that. He had a weekend scheduled, he had some things he was going to get done. All he did was fill up with gas. Done. It wouldn't start, it would crank from here to eternity. I knew it was the fuel pump when we finally got it towed over here. We did try to start it. It did run for like 2 seconds, and what little bit of residual fuel was in there ran out. But when I would turn on the key, I would listen, and I could hear a thud like this inside the fuel tank. That was the actual fuel pump trying to spin, and it's just locked. It can't move. So the bearings are shot in this pump. Some people say, well, I'll just take the bed off. No, you won't, because half the time the bolts are all rusted, and they use like a sheet metal, like a clasp or something that holds the studs in place, and it never fails that you go to take the nuts off the studs and the whole thing spins and it tears up, and it takes you 4 times longer to get it out that way. I have never taken a bed off of a truck to do a fuel pump. It always turns out bad, and you're like, man, I shouldn't have done this. I should have just dropped the tank. Some people will actually cut an access hole in their bed to get to the fuel pump, and you can do that if you want to, and just put a metal patch back over it when you're done. That's up to you. If you have an older truck and you really don't care, you could save some time doing that. One thing to keep in mind, you're right next to a fuel tank. You can accidentally cut into the tank. There's sparks involved. You could literally blow yourself sky high, so be careful with that. Typically what I've always used for the last decades that I've worked on cars and trucks is a good old transmission jack. And you can see that has bolt holes here. I can actually put my finger through them. We used to, at another shop, we used to have a plate that would bolt on that was really big, and it really wasn't necessary. I never needed it, but it can make it easier. But this allows you to remove the fuel tank, which you know always fails with a full tank, which means instead of weighing 80 pounds or 100 pounds, now it weighs whatever 30 gallons weighs or 25 gallons. So it always really stinks that way. But this is definitely how we get the tank down. You really would need one of these. And now you know when you get that quote for your fuel pump on your Chevy Silverado, and it's $800 or $1,000 or $1,200 or whatever, however it turns out to be, whatever year truck you have, it could be different. And you're like, why is it so much? No one's going to do all this for 40 bucks. They're not. So we know what's wrong. We know what the solution is. Let's get this thing up in the air and give it a quick check, because all that was wrong was this. We wanted to only fix this. We ended up now have to do the front brakes, and I guarantee you we'll find something else. It's the way it always works, isn't it, guys? Let's get it up in the air. One thing I really like about these Silverados, also they have a really good engine. The 5.3s, the 4.8s, they're awesome engines. The LS-based motors, until they came out with active fuel management. But if you change your oil and take care of it, they actually do okay. But when you start skipping oil changes, that's when they can fail. One thing I really like about them is look how easy this is to get to the front of the engine. There's not even a fan on the front of it. It has electric fans, and this year you can access everything so easily. This is not so on an F-150 or a Dodge. This is really, really nice. I don't see any major leaks going on the front of the engine. We already know about the front brakes. Let's check the front suspension. Nothing loose there. CV boots are good. Sway bar links are good. Struts are not blown. This strut's not blown. CV boot is good. Both of them actually. Steering rack boot is good. And I don't think anything's loose there either. I do see an oil leak. If you've watched any of my previous videos, I list some of the common leaks or common issues with the LS-based Vortec engines, and this one definitely exhibits one of those. It is the oil cooler adapter. Usually there's an oil cooler or sometimes just a cap to cap it off if it's not used. They always leak, and this one's no exception. You can see these two bolts right here is actually just a cap on this one, and you can see it's been spurting oil out of there all the way down and all over the place. This is very common on the LS-based Vortecs, and it frequently is mistaken for a rear main seal. I've actually heard of rear main seals being replaced on these, and then the customer's mad, it's still leaking. It's because the rear main seal never was leaking. It was the actual oil cooler cap. If you have an oil leak like this on one of these trucks, definitely don't just look here at the oil leaks and say, oh, my rear main seal's leaking. Follow it up. You'll see it's very likely coming from that cap or oil cooler there. Here's what Grimes calls the 4L slippy transmission. This one's actually not giving Crazy D any trouble. It's a 4L60. Just don't tow too hard with them and make sure to change the fluid regularly. They're actually decent. They're okay.
They make really good part works.
Yes, I bet they do. We can see more oil that's been kind of spraying along here. We'll definitely let Crazy D know about that. So maybe it'd be a very simple fix, 2 bolts, and solve all of this oil leak. Right in here is where our fuel tank was. You can see there's the cross member for it and everything. The fuel pump actually would be kind of in this area where this little plug is. Like, I just can't imagine cutting a hole through that. Maybe someone could, but I wouldn't. But we can see some rust over here on this cross member. We're definitely going to let Crazy D know about that. Oh my goodness. Look at this, Mrs. Wizard. The leaf spring's cracked and kind of in half right there. It's been that way for a while. It hasn't come off, but man. Yeah, we'll definitely see what Crazy D wants to do with that. It really needs to be done. That's dangerous. It's very odd to see this much rust on a truck up here in Kansas. We really don't see that much, but again, it's kind of not surprising. Here's our drive shaft. Everything's in good shape there. There's where our spare tire would be. But since this is difficult to get to, he just has it removed and put into the bed of the truck. Well, we'll definitely let him know about the oil leak and also that cracked leaf spring. I told you guys, this is one of those situations where customers, you call them and you say, I found this, your leaf spring's literally broken in half, bro. You can't just drive that. Well, I didn't plan on this. Hey, we didn't break it. It's just the way it is. It sucks. Sometimes car repairs and running a shop can be a very negative experience for customers and things. Luckily, Crazy D is not going to be that way. I know he won't. We'll let him know what we found. We'll see what we do with the rest. Let's get this thing on the ground. So we'll get these front brakes taken care of. We'll get the fuel pump situation taken care of. We'll see what Crazy D wants to do with the oil leak, and very likely I'll probably just get him a leaf spring. We'll get that taken care of. You shouldn't be driving it like that. So anyways, if you're curious what's going on with Mrs. Wizard's channel, she's got Mrs. Wizard's Ways. She's got all kinds of really good content there for you guys to go watch. There's a link in the description for that. Go check out her channel. Thanks for watching.